In the black markets of Qing City, where the desperate trade flesh for survival, a young man steps forward to sell what little he has left, his organs. They say he's lost a kidney, his spleen, even parts of his liver. One more surgery, and he'll die. But Yilin just smiles. Because his sister's illness? A lie? His tears? Fake. The truth? He's not dying. He's regenerating. Yilin isn't an ordinary man. He's a world hopper, cursed with the power to heal from anything, even death itself. And now, after selling his body 100 times over, he finally has enough to take the job transfer ritual, the first step to power in this world ruled by magic and monsters. Yilin stands before the sacred statue, and the impossible happens. A storm of ice explodes around him, the mark of an SSS-ranked Master of Forbidden Curses, the rank that can destroy armies but kills its user in return. Yilin carves his own path through fire and blood, battling beasts, deceiving rivals, and hiding the truth of his immortality. And when danger strikes, even the proud fire witch Nini finds herself saved by a mysterious masked stranger, a stranger who is none other than Yilin himself. With each forbidden spell, he trades years of his life for strength, but his power keeps growing, faster than anyone imagined. He sold his body for power. Now the world will pay the price. The tale opens deep within Qing City's underground black market, where an air of secrecy hangs over the shadowy figures moving through the gloom. A young man showed up, offering to sell his kidney and later including his cornea, all in hopes of receiving a certain sum of money. The physician studying his condition appeared gravely worried, informing him that his body had reached a state of total fatigue. The doctor noted that he had already parted with a kidney, his spleen, gallbladder, a significant portion of his liver, and segments of both the small and large intestines. He cautioned that if he were to give up his remaining kidney, he would not survive beyond 48 hours. The young man offers a gentle smile, showing no signs of worry, and conveys that he is willing to endure any hardship if it means his gravely sick sister has a chance to be saved. The doctor, the surgical tools, clearly impressed by the young man's bravery. Without a moment's delay, the doctor resolved to move forward with the procedure. Meanwhile, the young man assured the doctor of his willingness to face any discomfort that might come. Without warning, the young man's voice echoed through the room as he cried out in pain in the middle of the procedure. Following the procedure, he struggled with intense discomfort radiating from his knee and hip, yet made an effort to conceal his suffering from those around him. He glances around to make sure he hasn't been tailed, then pulls up his shirt, exposing a bizarrely healing wound that seems to be mending itself in an unusual fashion. The cells within the wound started to multiply rapidly, continuing this process until the injury was fully restored. He grinned as he clutched the money in his hands, feeling a surge of excitement at finally gathering enough to complete the job transfer ritual he had always longed for. He darted away with laughter, ridiculing the tale he had invented about having a sick sister and a dying mother, finally revealing that it had all been a fabrication. The young man revealed his name to be Yi, and went on to share that he was a world hopper, someone who journeyed across different realms. He admitted that, contrary to his earlier story, he was simply an ordinary orphan and did not have a sick sister. He went on to describe how this world was overflowing with spiritual energy, inhabited by monsters and demons, making it incredibly hard for an orphan like him to survive. The world was covered with strongholds and deadly traps, making survival nearly impossible for him, until he uncovered a special power that set him apart. He discloses that his special power is bodily regeneration, giving him the remarkable capacity to heal from severe wounds in just a few minutes, and even grow back organs that have been lost. He took advantage of his unique power by selling his own organs multiple times, gradually collecting 100,000 yuan, the exact sum needed for the job transfer ritual, since he understood that was his sole path to gaining more strength. His main objective is to ensure his own safety amidst the perils of this world, while also looking out for the well-being of the people he values most. Today held special significance, as it marked the occasion of the job transfer ceremony. Upon reaching the ritual site, several students react with astonishment at his arrival. His reputation for being poor leads them to quietly speculate about how he could possibly pay the required expenses. Explained to Ms. that he had needed to apply for a job transfer loan, a response that caught her off guard. Several students start to feel sorry for him, imagining that if he lands a worthless job, he will spend his whole life struggling to repay his debt. Ms. offers her encouragement, urging him to give his all and take part in the ritual with confidence. The students assembled before an enormous statue that glowed with an eerie, powerful energy. As they waited anxiously, the overseer of the ritual began to announce each student's name in turn. The overseer's lips curl into a smile while he signals for the next student to approach. Despite the opportunities available, a number of students worry about being assigned to support positions, anxious that lacking a desirable combat role might jeopardize their future prospects. A student called stepped forward toward the statue while the overseer calmly guided him, encouraging to place his hand on the statue and to ease his mind. His classmates felt let down upon hearing that he had received an A-ranked support position as a poultry breeder, and many of them looked at him with sympathy. The overseer calmly explains that every job holds value, and it is only people who sometimes fail to contribute. At that moment, the announcement came for a striking girl named to step forward and take part. The students burst into excitement, their voices rising in enthusiastic cheers as they praised her remarkable abilities. Once completed his job transfer ceremony, stepped forward confidently to take her turn. She faced the director, who offered her a wish for good fortune. In response, she expressed her gratitude with a polite thank you. Reached out her hand toward the radiant statue, and a magnificent surge of energy started to course through the air. A swirling surge of bright orange and red fire rapidly encircled her, announcing the arrival of an immense and formidable energy. The director stared in disbelief, overwhelmed by the revelation that had achieved the rare SSS rank as a fire witch. His face lit up with pride and happiness, realizing that Qing Academy now had a reason to stand tall because of her accomplishment. The students stared in shock, struggling to accept that the girl they had always thought of as merely attractive had achieved the fabled SSS rank. A few of them were overwhelmed by hopelessness, understanding that she had now left them far behind. Observed quietly, her thoughts lingering on the immense strength possessed by an SSS-ranked fire mage, someone capable of standing against a whole army, she couldn't help but feel that had fortune on her side. The director praised for her impressive accomplishment and assured her that a customized training program would be arranged to match her elevated position. Following, stepped forward to face the job transfer ritual. Despite the jeers from his classmates, who poked fun at his lack of money and the loan he needed just to participate, he kept his composure and moved ahead with unwavering determination. As walked past, made up his mind not to let himself fade into the background of her life. Planted his feet in front of the statue, determination in his eyes as he convinced himself that this long-anticipated moment would be the turning point he needed to alter his destiny. He rested his palm against the radiant statue, his gaze sharp with determination as he understood that everything ahead hinged on this very moment. Without warning, an immense surge of icy energy exploded outward, causing the whole area to tremble. An overwhelming surge of freezing energy burst forth from his body, leaving everyone around him frozen in shock. He positioned himself in the heart of the tempest, enveloped by a powerful aura that radiated both awe and fear. Shock swept through the crowd as they questioned whether Yi, the struggling student forced to borrow money just to participate in the ritual, had managed to achieve an SSS rank as well. The director stumbled forward, eyes wide with astonishment as he took in the sight of Yi encased in ice, his mind reeling as he struggled to comprehend the situation. The director revealed that Yi had been assigned a combat class ranked SSS, an extremely uncommon and unique type known as Master of Forbidden Curses, leaving everyone even more astonished. Even the director, usually composed, could not hide his shock when confronted with such a perilous and uncommon rank. He was astonished to learn that Yi had achieved SSS status and gained mastery over the forbidden curses. The students ridiculed him, claiming that those who practiced forbidden curses rarely lived long, as the magic rapidly drained a person's life energy. Couldn't help but feel a sense of disappointment over Yi's destiny, considering it to be deeply tragic. Listened in silence while his classmates mocked him, their harsh words suggesting he was destined for an early grave because of the profession assigned to him. The weight of their scorn pressed on him, filling his mind with gloom and leaving him quiet and discouraged. Seeking to uplift his mood, The director walked over and expressed the belief that a brief life filled with purpose was preferable to a long existence without direction. Appreciated the director's encouragement and expressed his own desire to achieve greatness and make the Academy proud. The director, delighted by his determination, assured him that he would receive a unique training program together with. Allowed a confident smile to play on his lips, secretly amused by how little his classmates understood about his real power. Unlike other curse masters who often met an early end, possessed the rare gift of regeneration, a secret that set him apart from the rest. As the ceremony for the job transfers concluded, the students started to disperse, making their way toward the dormitory buildings. Yi, weary from the day's events and ready to head home for some much-needed rest, was just about to leave when a familiar voice unexpectedly called out his name. Spun around, startled, and realized that Jog was the person who had called out to him. Walked up to him and expressed her desire to team up, her words dripping with sarcasm as she pointed out that experts in forbidden curses tend to meet an early end the more they engage in battle. She added that her real concern was not wanting to lose a fellow classmate so quickly. Expressed his gratitude for her concern, but courteously turned down the invitation, explaining that he did not wish to become a member of her team. Grew frustrated with his reaction, believing his stubbornness was leading him down a dangerous path. Feeling ignored as silently turned and left her standing there, her anger only intensified. After parting ways with his furious classmate, he wandered off by himself, his thoughts swirling with confusion about how unusual the day had become. Before long, a crowd of students blocked his path, jeering at him and making fun of his recent designation as an SSS-rank curse master. He let out a frustrated sigh, expressing his irritation as he told the group to move aside, explaining that all he wanted was to return home. The students continued to pester him relentlessly, ridiculing the small size of his house and proposing a menial position at G Corporation, but only if he agreed to obey their demands. The group continued to mock him, taunting that after he made some money working for them, he might finally afford incense to honor the memory of his lost family from the orphanage, which only fueled his growing anger. His anger flared as the others ridiculed the family who had cared for him in the orphanage, causing a flood of harsh, sorrowful memories to overwhelm his thoughts. His gaze grew fierce with a sudden, burning anger, and an intimidating presence seemed to radiate from him, leaving the students frozen in astonishment. Lifted his hand above his head, preparing to release his strength upon the students. The onlookers stared in shock and disbelief, some whispering that his actions were reckless and amounted to a desperate attempt at self-destruction. Consumed by fury, lunged at them with powerful strikes, making it clear through his actions that any mention of his lost family was utterly unacceptable. The force of his curse spell surged through the area, so intense that it drove the students to retreat several steps. They collapsed onto the ground, overwhelmed by terror and disbelief, their minds racing with furious questions about whether Yi had really lost all reason by casting such a perilous forbidden spell upon them. Stood his ground, inviting his opponents to strike if they dared. Despite their overwhelming fear, the students turned and fled, their voices echoing with frantic shouts accusing him of madness and recklessness. His disappointment grew as his adversaries retreated after only a single blow, their quick escape confirming his belief that they were nothing but cowards. Despite this, he soon experienced intense cramps in his abdomen as a result of casting the spell, making him aware that his body was already enduring significant strain. That evening, observed him from atop a building, her mind focused on Yi. She considered how foolish he was to risk everything for something so petty and reassured herself that someone like him did not deserve to be with her. At the same time, the city rested peacefully under the cover of darkness, with a gentle hush settling over everything. After a tiring day, arrived at his modest home, placed his bag to the side, and settled down to relax. He started researching dangerous spells and their consequences, his worry growing as he questioned whether giving up an essential organ, such as his heart to call forth the most powerful lightning, would result in his immediate death. He quickly experienced intense side effects from using his abilities, as waves of dizziness and overwhelming exhaustion washed over him. As fatigue overwhelmed him, His awareness grew hazy and drowsiness settled in. In another part of the city, a student who had previously been assaulted by Yi burst into his father's office. Driven by anger and humiliation, he shouted at his father, insisting that Yi be punished and urging him to hire someone to eliminate Yi. Despite the tense atmosphere, the father kept his composure. He gently told his son that targeting an SSS-ranked curse master would endanger their entire family, particularly because Yi's unstable emotions made her actions hard to predict. The father then suggested that his son take advantage of their family's riches and target Yi's vulnerability, his lack of money. The following morning, the students made their way back to Qing Academy. Walked into the academy, struggling to keep his eyes open while the other students watched him with interest. Their hushed conversations circled around his abilities and the way he had dealt with Jilin the previous day. Felt a jolt of surprise as Jilin walked over with a cheerful smile, carrying breakfast and extending it to him with genuine warmth. Initially, doubted his intentions, thinking that perhaps wanted revenge for his defeat the day before. However, earnestly expressed his gratitude, explaining that actions had opened his eyes and made him see how hollow and purposeless his life had once been. Kept moving forward as followed, determined to show his appreciation. Felt that its powerful blow had jolted him out of his daze, much like a sudden clap of thunder. At last, dropped to his knees in front of, his voice filled with earnestness as he pleaded for to accept him as a younger brother. His eyes widened in disbelief when Ling suddenly asked if he could call him his elder brother. Amused by the odd request, Yi teased Ling, suggesting that the hit he delivered the previous day must have rattled Ling's brain. However, Ling responded with heartfelt seriousness, explaining that the incident had caused him to reflect on his actions. He confessed that he truly wished to improve himself and looked up to Yi as an inspiring example to follow. Yi seized the opportunity to tease, suggesting that anyone wishing to become his brother would need to pay tuition fees. Without hesitation, accepted the idea and requested Yi's bank account information. Handed over the amount and insisted on 2 million yuan for the first semester's tuition. Caught off guard by the sum, felt a bit unsettled but didn't protest and accepted the arrangement. All the participants made their way to the stadium's testing grounds. There, the supervisor informed them that the gate to the beginner's secret realm was now open and told everyone to prepare for entry. The gate suddenly materialized, swirling powerfully as it shone with an eerie blue light. The students formed an eager line, their voices rising in spirited chants of victory as they prepared to step through the gate. Among them stood close to Jog, sharing in the group's excitement. Meanwhile, instructors from various academies observed the gathering of students. Among them, the appearance of and both SSS-ranked caught their attention. Some teachers were visibly amazed by their talent, while others couldn't help but feel envious. The headmaster attempted to stir up the group, ridiculing their quiet composure in hopes of getting a reaction. They responded by showing a clear preference for doing things rather than discussing them, and then they walked away from the scene. The students soared through the sky as they made their way toward the entrance of the hidden realm. As they continued on their journey, once more asked Yi if he would join forces with her, but he politely declined her offer without hesitation. His frustration mounted as he turned her down, prompting her to accuse him of arrogance and announce that if he was determined to throw his life away at a young age, she wouldn't interfere. Charged eagerly toward the gate, her heart pounding with anticipation for the journey that awaited her. The moment he stepped into the hidden realm, he plummeted rapidly from above, landing amidst the thick trees of a shadowy forest. Upon landing, he realized no one else was with him and questioned whether the teleportation had occurred by chance. Without warning, a fearsome tiger emerged in front of him, letting out an ear-splitting roar. Yet, Yi showed no fear. Instead, he ridiculed the beast by referring to it as nothing more than a harmless kitten. Seeing an ideal opportunity to gauge his abilities, he chose to unleash his newly acquired forbidden spell. With a powerful incantation, he unleashed a spell so fierce that the beast fell instantly, and 10 experience points were added to his tally as a reward. Felt a wave of disappointment wash over him when he saw the meager experience points he had earned, even though the intense spell had left him physically drained. It became clear to him that leveling up would require defeating at least 100 more monsters. A horde of monsters suddenly charged at him together, and he quickly recognized the chance to earn a significant amount of experience from the overwhelming assault. He sprang backward with swift reflexes, preparing to attack, while anticipating that defeating this group would grant him a significant increase in experience. Stood firm as a horde of monsters rushed toward him. He shifted into a defensive position, bracing himself to cast his forbidden spell once more. He made it known with certainty that he intended to unleash the recently mastered curse of destruction, his concentration sharpening as he prepared. He unleashed a surge of overwhelming energy through the forbidden curse known as Destruction Burst, resulting in catastrophic destruction that eliminated every monster in the vicinity. Marveled at the incredible strength of his newly learned spell, realizing it could effortlessly defeat the monsters before him. He acknowledged to himself that its power was so great, it might even be able to take down creatures far stronger than these. With unwavering excitement, he pressed on in the battle, his energy never waning. With impressive expertise and rapid, fluid motions, they defeated even more monsters. After a brief period, realized that casting the potent spell came with a heavy price. The magic made him grow older at an alarming rate, so he resolved not to let the spell last longer than a minute. This way, he could keep his secret healing power hidden from those around him. Despite the severe strain on his body, courageously decided to press on. He paid no heed to the risk to his life, his resolve unwavering as he declared his willingness to endure even greater hardships in pursuit of strength. He rushed ahead, bravely fighting on despite threats surrounding him, making it clear through his actions that he was willing to give up anything for victory. Pressed on in the fight, drawing upon a dangerous forbidden spell known as Apocalyptic Fire. As he himself to release his strongest move, brilliant rings inscribed with blazing energy symbols shimmered into existence all around him. The spell erupted with immense power, obliterating all obstacles in its way and leaving behind a frightening display of fierce blue fire. With the help of this spell, he wiped out a horde of monsters, gaining a significant boost in experience. Among his defeated foes were a level 3 gray wolf, a level 2 killer bee, a level 5 two-headed snake, a level 6 armored scorpion, and a level 6 centaur beast. Due to this remarkable achievement, he advanced to level 3, gaining increased strength. Along with his newfound power, he mastered a forbidden spell named Hellfire Burns the Sky, which made him feel immensely proud and joyful. Close to the chaos, observed with alarm as the forest lay in ruins, the aftermath of a strange power having reduced the monsters there to nothing but ash. She stood frozen, her mind swirling with confusion as she tried to make sense of the events that had just unfolded. She moved closer to the charred ruins, noticing the distinct marks of the strange hellfire. This discovery deepened her surprise and made her even more curious about the identity of someone capable of controlling such an uncommon force. Questioned in her mind how it was possible for someone other than herself to wield the fire element at Ching Ching Academy, particularly because the surge of fire energy she detected felt exceptionally powerful. At that moment, she resolved to uncover the identity of the person wielding this secret ability, especially because she was convinced the individual was human and might match her own strength. At the same time, Yi relaxed in comfort, savoring the flavorful meat he cooked from a three-eyed demon boar. Each bite helped him restore the strength he had used up in the recent fight. Once she had finished her meal and felt satisfied, chose to travel farther away in search of additional monsters to hunt. Without warning, emerged from behind the trees and addressed, catching him off guard with how unexpectedly she showed up. She walked over to him, curious about his reason for being outside by himself so late. Grew anxious at the thought of encountering and understood he needed to hide the reality of his abilities. He attempted to conceal the truth, giving a vague explanation about simply roasting food, yet she reprimanded him once more for ignoring her warning that forbidden curse masters should never engage in battles by themselves. She caught him off guard when she explained that the time for him to go with her had already passed. Her reasoning and perspective left him bewildered and uncertain. Abruptly steered the conversation in a new direction, inquiring whether he had ever witnessed anyone exceptionally strong wielding fire or mastering the flames of the underworld. He attempted to divert her doubts, by mentioning that he had noticed an exceptionally attractive young man walking off in a different direction. His frustration grew as she directed her blame toward Yi, convinced that his actions had prevented her from overtaking the person wielding the Hellfire power. Without warning, she noticed an unusual motion overhead. A colossal creature known as the dragon-blooded giant beast, classified as level 8, suddenly emerged and launched a powerful, savage assault against her. Stumbled backward in horror as a monstrous creature lunged at her without warning, its unexpected presence filling her with fear. She instantly understood that she stood no chance against it in this battle. She seethed with anger as her thoughts turned to Yi, convinced that he had abandoned her to confront the peril on her own. She attempted to protect herself by casting the Fireball Storm spell. With tremendous power, she hurled a series of blazing fireballs toward the creature, relentlessly attacking it. The creature's immense strength became clear as it unleashed a fierce counterstrike, leaving her with no choice but to fall back. Despite the odds, stood her ground with courage, preparing herself to use her strongest fire powers in a final stand. Summoning all her remaining strength, she unleashed an enormous blast of flames, desperately trying to protect herself from the ferocious creature closing in on her. Unleashed her power with unwavering determination, sending a powerful surge of flames toward her opponent. The mighty creature effortlessly deflected the attack, sending the magic hurtling back toward and leaving her badly wounded. The towering beast, triumphant in its victory, observed as she fell to the earth, drained of strength and energy. Its frustration grew as she recognized her own helplessness, suddenly aware of the arrogance she had shown in believing she could confront a level 8 monster by herself. At the height of her hopelessness, an enigmatic stranger emerged and cast the dreaded Hellfire spell. The beast was completely swallowed up by the intense, devastating blaze. Gazed in disbelief at the overwhelming power of the forbidden fire, her mind racing as she understood that the enormous creature had been obliterated in an instant. She realized who had rescued her and requested that he show his face, wanting to express her gratitude for his help. A mysterious figure wearing a mask stepped into view and told her his name was Lingyi, which he said represented both the beginning of day and the darkness of night. His curiosity about her rescuer's real identity grew, prompting her to inquire about which academy he attended, hoping she could express her gratitude in the right way. Lingyi, however, appeared visibly irritated and showed no real interest in being thanked. He dismissed the gratitude by downplaying his assistance, insisting it was insignificant and not deserving of any attention. Hurried after him, calling out for him to slow down. He cautioned her against following him, warning that more dangerous monsters awaited further inside. He also noted that she might want to fix her ripped clothing before doing anything else. His cheeks burned with embarrassment as she noticed her torn clothing, and overwhelmed by humiliation, she collapsed onto the floor. Despite everything, she declared with unwavering resolve that her goal was to one day reach his level and stand beside him with pride. From a distance, Yi had been the one to rescue her, feeling satisfied that his disguise had successfully kept unaware of his real abilities. He realized that if he wanted to improve, he would have to find a way to get stronger as fast as possible, without letting any more time slip away. Without warning, a forbidden curse skill materialized in front of him, demanding that he give up 2.5 years of his life in exchange for canceling a deadly strike. Realized that this skill suited his particular talents perfectly. He understood that this ability allowed him to use dangerous curses, ones that demanded giving up his heart or his life, without having to worry about dying. The idea sent a surge of excitement through him, filling his mind with anticipation for the new opportunities it might bring. He realized he could now face level 5 monsters freely, and his determination to grow stronger as quickly as possible intensified. On the last day of the beginner secret realm assessment, the academy leaders assembled in the observation area, sharing their thoughts and insights about how the students were doing and evaluating their abilities. Director greeted his former co-workers with a warm welcome. Director was teased about his pride in mentoring 2 students with SSS ranks, but he responded with unwavering assurance, declaring that he believed his students would surpass the record once held by someone from Yuhai Academy. Just then, someone else spoke up, offering praise for the director's sense of style and effectively cutting their conversation short. A man named, dressed in elegant attire, approached the group. Known as the leading astrologer in city, he had arrived with the purpose of meeting his daughter. He inquired with courtesy whether had been any trouble lately, but Director Su responded confidently, expressing that stood out as a shining example and brought honor to the academy. Without warning, the group's attention shifted as they saw an individual stepping out of the portal before the exam was supposed to conclude, causing a wave of shock and worry among them. Much to everyone's surprise, it was who had left the room ahead of the others. She walked over to the directors, offered a polite greeting to both her principal and her father, and listened as they questioned her about the reason for her appearance and her present standing. Stepped out of the portal with confidence, letting everyone know she had advanced to level 12 and confirming her elite rank as an SSS-class fire witch. The directors' faces displayed unmistakable surprise as the announcement echoed through the room. Disbelief filled the air, as none of them had expected the record to be surpassed with such speed and ease. His father walked over to her and offered a mild reprimand, suggesting that if she had stayed until the exam finished, she could have made it to level 13. However, responded without much interest, explaining that she lost motivation because the monsters were too weak and gave little experience. Beneath the surface, her true motivation for leaving ahead of schedule was her desire to seek out the enigmatic figure known as Ling Yi. At the same time, the true Yi remained within the hidden realm, where an unexpected sneeze caught him off guard. An odd sensation crept over him, as if someone somewhere was talking behind his back. Observed the empty landscape of the level 10 zone, quickly understanding that every monster had vanished because he had been too thorough in defeating them. He chose to cast a recently learned forbidden spell called Instant Dance, knowing it demanded the sacrifice of one of his kidneys, but promised to make him move 10 times faster for an entire hour. Dashed swiftly through the dense forest, excitement surging within him as he discovered the remarkable quickness his body now possessed. He moved swiftly across great distances, his heart racing with anticipation. Moving swiftly and directly, it darted through the trees as if it were an arrow. Before long, he came across a pack of mantis creatures, each one bearing 3 menacing heads. He rushed at the group with determination, confidently announcing his intention to defeat every one of them. Himself and unleashed a strong forbidden spell, giving up his own bladder as the necessary sacrifice. Fierce gray thunder, a powerful spell, surged forth and obliterated the monsters standing in front of him in an instant. After a while, more students emerged from the portal, clearly worn out and displaying visible traces of both tiredness and anxiety. Stood by the portal's entrance, her nerves on edge as she questioned Ling Yi's absence. As the exam neared its end with just 5 minutes remaining, the academy directors shifted their focus to the test results. During their discussion, they raised questions about the whereabouts of the second SSS-ranked student, who still had not come back. As the countdown neared its end, anxiety grew. Even though she had stood by the entrance the entire time, she feared she had somehow failed to spot Ling Yi. Without warning, a figure stepped out of the portal, making believe that at last, the enigmatic Ling Yi she had long anticipated had arrived. Unexpectedly, Yi showed up, appearing somewhat tired. She was visibly startled by his arrival, while Yi gently inquired if anything was the matter, explaining that he was just coming back after the exam had ended. Upon seeing Yi's anger flared. She regarded him with disdain, labeling him a coward in her mind, and insisted that he keep his distance from her. Yi noticed her abrupt behavior and puzzled over whether she might be feeling unwell or facing some personal problem. The director of the academy walked up to Yi, curious to find out which level he had achieved. Offered a respectful greeting, and informed him that he had advanced to level 16. The entire group stood frozen, shock written across their faces as they struggled to comprehend the news. Doubt filled the air as they tried to make sense of how it was possible for anyone to achieve level 16 on a test meant for beginners. The director beamed with pride, resting his hand on shoulder as he announced that was Ching Ching Academy's greatest source of honor. Attempted to clarify that Yi, being skilled in forbidden curses, was naturally expected to advance rapidly, because using such dangerous powers came with significant risks. At the same time, some people started to talk about Yi with a mix of scorn and sympathy, claiming that he was throwing his life away and would not live long, all just to chase after temporary fame. One of the directors walked up to Yi, genuinely inquiring if director had pressured him into taking dangerous actions just to improve the academy's standing. However, director strongly rejected the idea, insisting that he would never put his students' safety on the line for the school's image. He remained composed and self-assured as he addressed their concerns, making it clear that he had not been coerced by anyone. The choice was his alone. He explained that he had always lived in poverty, often dismissed by others, and now he finally had an opportunity to demonstrate his worth. Whether or not he exhausted himself at the height of his achievements did not bother him. The most important thing for Yi was that the world would recognize his abilities and acknowledge his success. Following's bold announcement of his ambitious dreams, Mr. offered high praise, acknowledging as the undisputed top performer in the exam and voicing his respect for his impressive aspirations. Mr. made his way over to Yi, presenting himself courteously as the father of. He assured Yi that he would be there to help if any assistance was needed down the road. Abruptly cut into the discussion with frustration, insisting that Ling Yi, the secretive figure she had been anticipating, would surpass everyone in rank, not Yi. Her outburst piqued her father's interest about this enigmatic person. The rest of the directors exchanged confused glances, since the name Ling Yi was unfamiliar to all of them, yet stood firm in her conviction. Yi respectfully asked for permission to leave, and the directors allowed it. The head of the academy then reminded him to rest well, so he would be ready for the official exam that would take place in 3 days. Once he had left, the exams came to a close, leaving disheartened because she never caught a glimpse of Ling Yi coming through the portal. In her mind, she held Yi responsible for this disappointment. His father walked over to her, offering reassurance as he expressed his trust in her. He then gently questioned whether leaving the exam early was solely because of that particular reason. Insisted with confidence that Ling Yi and Yi were not the same person at all, yet her father seemed puzzled by her certainty, questioning whether she might be mixing them up. Firmly dismissed the suggestion, arguing that Ling Yi was much more talented than Yi, making it impossible for them to be the same individual. At that exact time, Yi was unwinding at his house when an unexpected sneeze escaped him. He couldn't help but wonder if might be gossiping about him somewhere. He slouched in his seat, muttering under his breath, puzzled by his constant frustration with him. Without warning, a sharp knock echoed through the room, leaving him puzzled about who might be seeking him so late at night. Unlocked the door and was greeted by a man who identified himself as Mr., the head of Ching City's Brain Booster Elixir Company. Wondered aloud about the reason for director's visit. In response, director revealed that he had come to present with a chance to promote the company's product. Since had recently gained fame for achieving a new exam record, the company wanted him as their representative and promised a substantial reward for his participation. Inquired about the amount of the impressive reward, prompting director to silently hold up 3 fingers in response. She explained that the amount totaled $3 million. Stared in disbelief at the hefty amount, while director offered a concise description of their extraordinary invention, insisting it improved brain power and promoted faster cell healing. Weighed the potential reward against the danger, and ultimately chose to take a chance on the product. He tasted the drink, noticing how its sweetness and pleasant flavor greeted him right away. Before long, dizziness overwhelmed them, and they collapsed, losing consciousness. Director wasted no time in making a phone call to verify the success of the plan. He assured the person on the other end that alternative strategies were ready if needed, then instructed them to arrange for Yi to be moved. Soon after, was transferred to a remote and shadowy place. During the move, wondered aloud about the reason his superior seemed unusually focused on this specific student. His superior gave him a harsh warning to avoid getting involved in affairs that were not his business, demanding that he leave immediately, and making it clear that anyone who interfered would be executed without hesitation. The enigmatic director walked over to Yi and started to inspect him closely. To the director's astonishment, every organ that Yi had once sold had somehow regenerated, leaving the director completely amazed by this unbelievable occurrence. He joyfully proclaimed his statement using his voice and appearance. He imagined himself discovering the mystery behind organ regeneration, envisioning the riches and influence that would follow. He was caught off guard when he unexpectedly rose early that morning. With unwavering confidence, the person took a seat directly across from him, leaving the enigmatic director in shock, as the medication was potent enough to keep even an elephant unconscious for 6 hours. Remained composed, his curiosity focused on the methods used to locate him, showing no reaction to the intimidation coming from the man. The enigmatic stranger chose that moment to unveil both his abilities and his true name, announcing himself as a level 20 fighter. He warned you that if he didn't give up without a struggle, he would be at risk of losing his arms and legs. Understood that he was left with no option except to use strength. Wanting to prevent attracting too much attention, he chose not to rely on fire magic. Rather than risk a scene, he selected an alternative method. He invoked a powerful and forbidden spell known as Eternal Freeze Gaze, giving up one of his eyes as the price. In an instant, everything before him became encased in ice. His rival could do nothing but stare in disbelief at the sudden and overwhelming display of magic. Frost quickly crept outward from his feet, startling him into a scream as confusion filled his mind about the strange phenomenon. Made a frantic attempt to smash through the ice using his weapon, only to realize that it was far too solid for him to break. Could hardly believe what had just happened. He struggled to understand how Yi, who was only at level 16, managed to defeat him so effortlessly, despite his own higher level of 20. The idea seemed utterly unthinkable to him. Yi remained composed as she took her seat, questioning about whether anyone else was aware of his ability to regenerate organs. Insisted earnestly that he had never shared this secret with another person. Chose to trust him for the time being, and assured that he would finish things swiftly. With all his might, he rushed toward and threw a powerful punch. Caught off guard and overwhelmed by shock, remained rooted to the spot, completely unable to move or defend himself. Delivered a powerful punch that broke apart the ice encasing, ending him once and for all. Once was out of the picture, he began to grumble about the lingering discomfort the earlier drink had caused him. He resolved to deal with the unpleasant aftereffects later, even if it meant upsetting his stomach to rid himself of the drink's impact. Swiftly unleashed a powerful assault on the remaining conspirators nearby, effortlessly defeating each one. He seized a nearby henchman who had managed to survive and insisted on learning, who was orchestrating the entire plot. At first, the man paused uncertainly. However, confronted with the danger of losing his life, he swiftly chose to reveal what he knew. He disclosed that their leader was, who ruled as the underworld king of city. Immediately recalled who was, remembering his reputation as a notable philanthropist in the city, and this knowledge only served to further entangle the situation. In another part of the hidden black market, his eyes widened in disbelief as he learned that every attempt to reach his agent had ended in silence. One of his subordinates reported that was nowhere to be found. He realized that the place where he stood had been completely destroyed by fire, most likely caused by someone wielding powerful combat skills. His anger boiled over as he demanded that his men search for the perpetrator without wasting a moment. The following day, Yi made his way to the impressive home of the family. Upon his arrival, he was greeted with enthusiasm by Ling, who had developed strong loyalty to Yi because of their past experiences together. Ling, feeling bashful, mentioned the 2 million yuan that Yi had requested before. However, Yi quickly interrupted him, softly chastising Ling for talking about money as if it mattered between them. Ling greeted warmly and assured him that he could think of this place as his new home from this moment forward. Ling remembered his father's words, realizing that Yi truly was a straightforward person who valued his pride above all else. While Yi stood within the Ji family estate, he felt certain that men would not risk launching an attack against him there. Stepped inside the house and was taken aback to see many maids standing in neat rows. They welcomed him with polite and respectful gestures, leaving him momentarily speechless. He glanced at the maids, reflecting inwardly on how much life changed when someone possessed riches. Ling suggested appointing a maid to serve as Yi's personal attendant, and Yi, with a playful tone, agreed to the arrangement. Not long after's cheeks grew red with embarrassment, and he quickly brushed off the idea, claiming he had only been joking. Despite this, Ling continued to tease him, insisting with a smile that needed to change his clothes because something special was about to happen. Yi's curiosity got the better of him as he pressed Ling for details about the urgent issue, but Ling insisted that all would be revealed once they reached their destination. After some time, they reached the location of the yearly auction, where Ling pointed out to him that this impressive hall was a place he had yet to see. When Ling and Yi reached city's annual auction, Ling mentioned that he wanted to introduce Yi to several influential people from the city. However, Yi was more interested in finding something to eat and dismissed Ling's suggestion, insisting that Ling should focus on his own affairs. Ling, with a hint of sarcasm in his thoughts, judged as overly simple and naive, attributing his inexperience to his humble background. Eagerly consumed his meal, making up for the hunger he had endured earlier when he had to go without food. He noticed someone speaking from behind, questioning his reason for being there. When he faced the other way, he noticed accompanied by her friend, appeared curious and wanted to know from the identity of. His irritation grew as appeared before him once more. He questioned inwardly why this bothersome woman seemed determined to cross his path so often. Showed clear annoyance as she addressed her friend, pointing out that Yi was the same person who had fled from the creature in the secret realm, and she made it obvious that encountering him again irritated her. Yi concealed a sly smile, imagining how shocked might appear if she ever realized that he was, in fact, Ling Yi, the same individual she had once looked up to. Ling soon appeared, accompanied by a group of friends. He confidently introduced them to Yi, making it clear that he considered Yi to be someone of higher status. The group reacted with astonishment, and a few of them teasingly suggested that Ling ought to take the lead instead. However, Ling stood his ground, asserting that Yi was far from ordinary and had reached an impressive level of skill. The crowd could hardly believe it when they discovered that Yi had advanced all the way to level 16 in the beginner's secret realm, leaving them amazed at how far ahead he was compared to their own much lower levels. Yi, maintaining a composed demeanor, reassured the group that there was no need for shock. He offered his assistance in helping them improve their skills, suggesting that escaping the city would enhance their performance in the forthcoming important exam. When Yi agreed to offer assistance, anticipation spread among the group. However, Ling voiced his worries, pointing out that strict rules barred any student from leaving the city before the important exam, a measure set in place to stop students from seeking help from those with greater strength. He quietly suggested that traveling to the exam location could serve as a valuable chance to gain experience, but he worried about not having proper gear. Ling wasted no time in easing his concerns, confidently guaranteeing that any equipment he required would be supplied from the ongoing auction without issue. Felt a wave of astonishment at the unexpected proposal, yet Ling confidently explained that his own father was prepared to cover any expenses necessary if it meant test scores would improve. As the auction commenced, a striking hostess made her entrance, greeting everyone warmly and presenting herself as Jing Jing, a representative of the auction house. The hope was that everyone would achieve their goals and get what they longed for. Wasted no time and introduced the initial item, a powerful fire element skill scroll designed for mages, with the opening bid set at 500,000 yuan. The auction escalated rapidly, with offers climbing until they abruptly hit 3 million yuan. The person responsible for this staggering bid turned out to be Mr. Jog, who was father. Observed the situation with a gentle smile, noting how Mr. Jog was freely spending money to purchase abilities for his daughter. Internally, felt a quiet sense of pride, knowing that, as an expert in forbidden curses, he had no need for those skill scrolls.